CardGamesTV Podcast. So the future meta. So what does the future hold for us? Competitively, casually, whatever, however way you play the game. But when it comes to, what for the I'll just talk for 2022. I'm not gonna go beyond that. Just for the year 2022, what can we expect? Right? What can I see? So I'm just gonna give you my future sight, my view and predictions of what to expect in the future and future metas coming up. Well, first off, one of the things we're going to probably see more often and more of is resurgence of old decks, old strategies, being brought back. More support for certain archetypes, of course, right? But for certain cards, some cards are going to come out that's going to help support some other cards. Some people, I haven't seen anybody mention it, but it's something I noticed. But I noticed no one's really mentioning it. So it's the idea that there's a 6-drop Goku, miraculous transformation, right? So, and how useful that is to use it as an evolved target for Goku, sign Ultra Instinct, right? Ultra Instinct sign Goku. So, and we all know how, Goku's really good when it comes to the combo phase because he prevents your opponent from being able to combo. So all you have to do is worry about his blockers and negates, and that should be, easy to deal with because you just make sure they don't have blockers. Especially when you evolve, he has the effect to bounce battle cards on your opponent's side field back to the hand, so that will prevent blockers, that will prevent them from being able. Well, they can't combo at all, so it wouldn't matter if they try to combo from the field. But it definitely will get rid of blockers. So he already deals with blockers. He already deals with the combo phase. The only thing you have to worry about is a negate. So he's definitely one of those really good, UA battle cards, unstoppable attackers. You just got to make sure your opponent can't stop you with a Hatchiak or something like that, or a blocker negate or sparking negate. So you just got to be able to predict and figure out if your opponent has the negate or not. And then go for game, right? So it's just that idea that I noticed that there's some cards that help support other cards. Obviously, there's a new cell structure that's coming out, which definitely helps out the old cell. So you can obviously rebuild, good old cell chain and have that classic fun of reducing your opponent's hand size down to 3 and taking advantage of that small hand size and take your opponent out for game, right? Especially if you can combine it with like a Unison's effect to take another card out your opponent's hand and maybe a rebrand, so that way they have 0 cards in the hands, right? If you can set it up. A new thing is the multicolor super combo, the green yellow cell super combo, which is really good for the cell, for the 7-drop cell, because of 7-drop cell. He has evolved. He evolves for 6 energy. So in one turn, if you have 6 energy, you can just swing with the leader, combo the cell super combo. He gets played from the drop area into the battlefield, right? And then you can pay 6 and evolve on top of that super combo with the 7-drop. And you would need a android leader, and the leader, well, obviously for the super combo aspect, would need to be green or yellow. And I checked. There's a good amount. Obviously, there's some cell leaders, obviously, that you can use. Obviously, there's the new cell leader. And then there's Android 13, 17, Android 17 and 18, Super 17. Those are in the yellow color, by the way. But there's like a Android 13 yellow, and there's an Android 13 in green. The point is there's a good amount of green and yellow Android leaders, so this strategy is viable. And the idea is that, you know, it's a nice little tech, right? Because the super combo, it's good and is already good. Like, it's a good card, right? But then the 7-drop Cell, he's the way I look at him, he's like a Android 17 turn of the tide, right? You know, he's something you can use as a win con. So the fact that you can just put the super combo and the you know, perfect force Cell, that's the 7-drop, into any, you know, any green yellow Android deck, and have that nice little, you know, little turn 6 strategy where you can just bang, turn 6, reduce your opponent's hand size down to 3, trigger a Unison's effect to knock another card out the hand. You know, if you have another effect that can also take out another card, you know, that'd be great. The less cards your opponent has in their hands, the better, right? Especially if you're trying to reduce the possibility of a Baby Hatchiyack. Because think about it, your opponent only needs 2 cards in their hands for Baby Hatchiyack. 1, Baby Hatchiyack itself, and 2nd, a card to discard, right? So as long as you reduce them down to 1, you have a higher chance of being able to hit them. Unless it's a blocker negate or, you know, a sparking negate, then it's like, good for you. You got that. You were able to stop an attack. But other than that, you know, you should be able to go for game. At least you'll be in a better position if you do that, right? Because it'll definitely be hard for your opponent for the clapback, right? You know, they have less cards to play, so the clapback will be, you know, non-existent, so to speak. Let's see, what else? What else is the future? Obviously, more Unisons, people playing more Unisons. So decks, I wouldn't be surprised to see decks with like 16 or 20 Unisons or even more. So more unique stuff, like decks that are heavy in Unisons, heavy in negates, like, you know, extra cards and stuff like that. And that'd be a strategy. So there's going to be more, you know, themes like that. There's going to be obviously a new card type, possibly, because there's going to be a new zone in the game. So that's something to look forward to. So we'll see. It can open up a lot of possibilities. So obviously we're going to have the idea of like leaders. Definitely, I can't wait to see more of that. Leaders where they have different characters on it, like Goku on the front, you know, Frieza on the back type of thing. So more leaders like that I expect to see more of, because I've had that idea of having leaders when they flip over, they're different. You know, they're different characters. Instead of just being a different version of the same character, right? Just literally have different characters, so kind of like a tag team type thing. Whereas like you know, the front side, you have one leader fighting, but then when you awaken, there's a different, you know, character fighting as it were. And their power could be similar, the same, different. You could even have the possibility of the front side being stronger than the back side, like a 15k leader on the front, but a 10k leader at the back for some reason, right? As some example, or a 10k leader on the front and a 5k leader on the back, because it could be like, let's see who it could be. It could be, I don't know, maybe Boo and then on the front and Hercule in the back or something like that, or Vegeta in the front and then Bulma in the back, right? Where, you know, something like that. And based off of the character, it can change the way the deck functions, right? You know, like if you think of like Vegeta more of an aggro type of character, so then on the front side, you're kind of playing aggro, but then when you awaken, then you can be more defensive, right? You know, maybe even have the effect where one of your battle cards will have a blocker, or maybe your Vegeta cards have a blocker, so that way Vegeta can protect Bulma, right? That cute little theme right there. So that'd be kind of cool, where all your Vegetas gain blocker. So that'd be a unique way of, you know, that makes it unique. That makes it different. I think I definitely want to make like a video separate to specifically put that idea out there, because Penna does have a habit of coincidentally doing things and bringing out things that just seem so familiar to me. You know, coincidence can happen or not. But anyway, so that'd be a cool idea. I definitely want to put that out there. Just, I had the idea of like a leader being able to to gain life, to give you a life. And then now we started getting rejuvenating, stuff like that. So that kind of stuff. So it's like, so it's like either Banner is listening to my stuff that I put out there, or just a coincidence, right? Who knows? But that would be a cool idea. I like that idea of like when you awaken the leader, you get a different play style. So imagine like if you're on the front, your leader is let's see, what example would that be? On the front, on the front you got a element of hand control, but then when you awaken, you have an element of just like counter. So basically, on the front, you're kind of like maybe Raditz or something, the Raditz leader. But then when you awaken, you're more like the baby leader, where you could maybe reduce the cost of your counter plays, by 1 energy or something like this. So like that kind of stuff. Another thing, like since you're doing hand control, like I was saying, hand control, so that means the leader on the front will like be green, and then when you awaken, the leader will be blue. So that's the other idea of like having different characters on a card. You also will have different colors, and because of different characters, there's going to be some differences, right? There's cards you can tech in, and this opens up different possibilities for different deck builds. Because if you have Goku in the front, right, then you can't use Cold Bloodlust. But if you awaken and your leader is now Frieza, right, which means he's going to be Frieza's army, obviously, right, then you can use Cold Bloodlust. So it's a way to turn on some tech cards just by awakening. So you awaken, now you can use Cold Bloodlust because your leader is Frieza now, when it originally was Goku, as an example. So that ability to switch and swap, just like if you do the Vegeta and Bulma idea, then on the front side he's a Saiyan, right? But when you awaken, now the leader is an Earthling. So you can tech in Earthling cards. Like for example, what's his name? Yamcha. The Yamcha. What's his name? Well, it's the Yamcha where like if your leader is Earth, you attack a battle card, you KO it, you deal your opponent 2 damage type stuff. So it's like once you awaken and go from Vegeta to Bulma, then Yamcha is playable, right? His effect is active. Just like, let's say the front side leader is blue, right? Which means you have access to Dimension Magic. But then when you awaken, your leader's red, and now you have access to, I'll just say, Violent Rays. There you go. You have access to Violent Rays now. So that way you can have Violent Rays and Dimension Magic in the same deck. And your leaders would be mono. Instead of a red-blue multicolored leader, right? You have this now. Plus, this goes with the whole mono idea, because some cards says your leader has to be mono, a certain mono color. It can't be a multicolor leader. So for you to use those cards, so for cards that says you got to have a mono red or mono blue leader, this type of leader that flips from one color to another will allow you to obviously be able to tech in those types of cards, be able to play them. But you can only play them once you awaken, which makes them balanced that way. You know what I mean? Because you can only use them at a certain time. For example, like if you awaken, right? So now you can play Violent Rays because you're a red leader now. You're not a blue leader no more. That turns off your Dimension Magics, which some people look at it as like, oh, well, that's not good. I don't want my Dimension Magics, to be turned off. But hey, you win some, you lose some, right? It's like you gotta be tactical. You gotta think ahead and plan, and that's the thing that I always try to focus on is the skill part. The one thing I like about card games is the idea of being skillful, of learning the game, being good at the game, building things, skill. I don't want it to be random. I don't want it to be guessing game. I don't want it to be a dice roll type game, right? Because a coin flip type game, because that just makes it pointless. It's like, for all that, I might as well just flip coins whenever I'm bored. I'm like, oh, there you go. I just have fun flipping coins, rolling a dice. No, I don't want a card game to be essentially a coin flip, right? A roll of the die. I want it to be an intellectual battle, right? A back and forth. I want to make decisions. I want to make plans and execute my plans and succeed in my plans. My plans is to drop Android 17, turn tides and win. You know what I mean? Like I want to make sure that happens. I want to, that kind of stuff. I want to play chess, not rock, paper, scissors, like, or just a coin flip, right? It's like I want to play chess, right? I want to play 4D chess, not even regular chess, just 4D chess, right? Next level shit. I want to play mind games. At the same time as I'm playing the card game, I want all that extra shit. So that's just, the way I look at it. But that's why it would be cool to have leaders that, can change, the flow of the game. They can change what you do. Just like the idea most of us wanted launch, and wanted her to flip back and forth, just so it could be thematic. Plus, just the idea of being able to awaken and unawaken, is just an interesting idea. What else we can look forward to in the future? Like I said, just bringing back some old strategies, some old decks, some old fan favorites. I mean, they kind of already did that. Sorry, a little bit with Make a Freezer, revamping some old leaders. That's another thing, that they're supposed to be revamping some old leaders, so we'll see how that works out. Obviously, we're going to get some newer leaders. It kind of looked like they're going to give us more Ginyu Forces leader, as opposed to just Captain Ginyu, but get all the other characters like Zarbon and whatnot, and that's going to be kind of cool. To be able to play the Ginyu Force characters, just like it'd be cool to have all the Bardock's crew members. They all of them having their own leaders, like Torah and stuff like that. So it'd be cool they all have their own leader, not just Bardock himself. So that'd be kind of cool. I get it to a certain degree that, like, since Bardock was the leader of the Bardock's crew, it makes sense that he was a leader card, and then the deck consists of a lot of his teammates. Obviously, thematically, that makes sense, right? But at the same time, people have their favorites, right? People have their, people like something, individuality, right? So that's why the idea of I would like to be able to play another character, have a Shagesh leader, right, for example, and play that character, have a Monaco leader. Still waiting for that, and a Koran leader and stuff like that. That'd be funny. A lot of people still want Popo, so we definitely expect that to be a thing at some time in the future. Possibility, unless they think that that's not appropriate for us to get a Popo leader, but we'll see. We might get a Popo leader. What else? Obviously, a lot of the leaders should be, popular demand, and that's something I do agree with. That band that should listen to is the players when it comes to what characters should become leaders. That's a good idea. What I mean? There's financial benefits for that, right? But I don't agree with a lot of other stuff, like when people start crying and complaining about a card being too good, let's ban it. It's like, are you kidding me? Like, no, let's not cater to bad players not getting good at the game. It's like, no, we need to make sure that people understand that they got to get good at the game or not play it at all. I don't like this whole trophy participation trophy type of mentality, where it's like we got to cater to the people who put in the least effort, the people who spend the less money on the game. Is like, really? I'm not saying this game is for rich people or anything like that. It's like you guys spend a lot of money. Like, no, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's surprising to the ones who support financially, and even through stuff like content, YouTube content, stuff like that, or through spreading of the game, there's people that don't do that, right? There's people who don't spread the information about the game, don't buy a lot of products, right? They don't buy a lot of products. They either borrow cards, or they just always wait for everything to be cheaper and then buy stuff. So they're not really putting that much money into the economy, right? Into the company. So it's like they support the company very, very little, but they're the ones with the biggest mouth, right? They're the ones with the most to say. Like, oh, I want this, I want that, I want this to be like this way, I want this to be that way. This is unfair, blah, 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 blah. They're the ones that complain the most, but they're the ones that contribute the least. That's the ones I'm referring to. I'm not talking about, like, everybody in general. There's a lot of people who do contribute a lot to the game and whatnot, and to the community and to the company. Even throwing out ideas, of what, like I'm doing right now, just talking about like what Bandai could do with leaders and stuff like that to, keep the game going, to make it more interesting. But clearly I'm a fan. Clearly I support the game and would like it to, last long into the future. So I'm always thinking about what they could do in the future, what other possibilities, is possible, what they could do for the game to keep the game fresh and exciting, and keep people who are already playing the game to keep playing, and then of course entice and encourage other players to other people to come into the game and enjoy the game, and of course profitability for the company. So there's not the future is endless, as it were, and as players throwing out ideas that benefit the game, throwing out ideas and concepts and things that Bandai could do to add to the game, as opposed to like constantly trying to subtract things from the game, because it's really annoying to see a large majority of the community, especially the part of the community that barely supports financially and in other capacities the game itself, constantly complaining about things need to be banned and restricted, and this, that, and third gotta go, and this should have never been created, and the list goes on and on and on of complaints, when it's like the idea is to add more to the game, to make it better, fun, diverse, so that way everybody can enjoy the game. Another thing is hopefully they start incorporating the concept of like I don't want to use the term formats, but you get the idea of like different ways to play the game, right? It would be nice that like a singleton format type thing. This game is already set up a lot like Commander from Magic the Gathering, so making it where you can only have one copy of everything. So we could call it the ultimate format or something like that, where it's like everything in your deck is just you're allowed one copy of everything. You know what I mean? And maybe in that format, you can have a rule where you're actually allowed to have more than one ultimate in a deck. So that would be the only format that has that exception, where you can play multiple ultimates in a deck, because the whole entire deck is just singleton, right? It's just one copy of everything you want to play. So that might be interesting. That might be fun. I mean, we could do that ourselves, just for as casually, right? We could just create that format ourselves and just have that love, just have that as a fun way of playing the game outside of what the company decides, right? A lot like how Magic players, they create different formats for them to play the game different. Like the idea of playing set 1, set 2, and set 3, and have that as a format itself, where it's like you only play stuff from those first three sets, and the promos obviously from that time, and just have that fun. Or up to set 6 or something, where you can have the classic Mecha Frieza apes and swap, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the original, and just have a lot of the old decks. What is that? Gogeta 7-drop, Cell Chain, of course, and like all the classic stuff that people know and love, right? The nostalgia, and they can play and have that fun being able to experience that. Because that's another thing is, it's not just, playing card games. It's definitely not just playing whatever's new, but also being able to play old stuff, be able to experience stuff that certain players never got to experience. A lot of players never experienced the 1-2 swap, right? Never experienced that barter swap engine. A lot of players haven't experienced the Mecha Apes, at full power. There's a lot of things that we veteran players who've been playing since day one, we are used to. We've experienced it, but a lot of new players haven't. So being able to have a format for them to be able to play those formats, essentially being able to go back in time, as it were, right, and play, right? I mean, you could even call a format like maybe hyperbolic time chamber or something like that, to give the idea, space and time, the what is it, like the chamber of space and time or something like that, or the room of space and time, right? And be able to, just, format and just be able to play. I think that's what it's called, right? The room of spirit and time, I think it was. The room of spirit and time format. And that's what you could call it, where you could play old formats with the old rules, old effects, and so forth and so forth, right? So that'd be kind of cool for those who want the nostalgic stuff. I'm more of like a progressive. Like, I'm more interested in doing new things and evolving as a player. So going backwards is not a common thing for me. I mean, I do mix old cards with new cards. Obviously, I do that, but that's just the whole. I like to use all the the full card pool that's accessible to me to build what I build. Shit, I would love to build decks with objection, but been there, done that. That's in the past. So I had to continue building decks without objection. But it would be nice if I could. But that'd be interesting if Bandai decides they want to bring back some old card effects. Maybe add restrictions to them or something, like where they could remake objection, but make it where it works a certain way. Like maybe put the energy in rest mode so that we can't try to do some type of Senzu Bean type shenanigans to try to untap the energy and then play another objection. That's what I used to do. Objection, play an energy, swing with the leader, Senzu Bean, so I have 2 energy again, play a second objection, bang, so I can ramp twice, right? On turn 2, so I'll already be at 4 energy on turn 2 and still have an energy up for negates, and then on turn 3 playing energy, I'd be at 5 energy on turn 3. You know what I mean? That's the kind of shit I used to do. So it'd be fun to do that again, but that's not the state of the game we at right now. But it'd be cool, like I said, they could make it where you have to it comes into rest mode, so that way it can't be used right there and then. But of course, some people will be like, oh, what about Soul Striker? Well, it depends. Bandai could ban Soul Striker. I'm just saying. Could or not. That'd be interesting that the best way the deck the leader that can use objection, the new objection, much better per se would be would be Soul Striker, right? But with any other leader, it won't be the same. You can also restrict it to blue leaders, make it where only can be used with blue leaders. That way other people won't try to mix it with other colors, because we do have multicolor, so you want to be careful about multicolored decks being able to just splash in objection, because then we just go right back to like everybody just ramping like crazy and dropping some crazy stuff early game. If the idea is that blue is mainly the energy manipulating arched color, then that's why I'm like make it make it where it's for blue leaders only, make it where the energy comes in rest mode, that kind of stuff. What else could we expect for the future of the game? I already mentioned the idea of card types, so it makes you wonder what the new mechanics are going to be, right? Because there's a new zone, so you can only imagine what they're going to put there. Is it going to be another leader, or is it going to be a zone where you can put another unison, or is it going to be a zone where you have a certain card type? Me and my friends were talking about, like, it'd be crazy if that zone is so you can put your ultimate in there or another ultimate, because the rule for ultimate is you can only have one in your deck, right? But not that you can't have one, outside of it, right? Like, so you could have have a zone specifically for a extra ultimate, or make it where it, like how you can start the game off with your leader, and sometimes leaders have the ability where you can play a field card, for example, right off the bat, that this zone can be for an ultimate. Like, you could literally, maybe there's a leader that when you play the leader, it lets you go grab your ultimate and put it into that zone. And then you have to meet a certain condition. Like, let's say the condition is when you awaken, then you add the ultimate to your hand. So then being able to play a leader that gets you Baby Hatchiak, right, and put it into that zone, and then when you awaken, you can add that Baby Hatchiak to your hand so you have access to it, that kind of stuff. So it creates that type of, possibility. So that was an idea. Another idea is that zone could be for a card that can evolve on top of an ultimate, or just a card that can evolve on something else, like any battle card. It's just, there's just different possibilities of what that zone could be used for. So just some ideas we had. We also had the idea of having it where you can have something that evolves on top of an ultimate, and the idea was to, like, call it like a mega or something. So you would have a mega that evolves on an ultimate. So that would be kind of interesting. What else? What other future stuff do I see? Besides people playing more unisons, wouldn't be too surprised if more people play less. Well, people have less focus on combo power. I wouldn't be surprised if that becomes a thing. Because I noticed that after a long time, people start, in the community, I start seeing more and more people playing similar to the way I play, or I should say the way I used to play, because, they're late to the party, as they say. So the possibility that people will probably be using super combos less is a possibility, or just, not filling their decks with a lot of combo power, and they try to focus on other things, other aspects, and they, focus on turn 1, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4 plays. So they streamline their decks for for the aspects, right? So when they mulligan, they make sure that their hand consists of cards that they can play in the first couple turns. So combo power will be a little irrelevant in the first couple turns, because you're not really trying to stop your opponent from dealing you damage anyway on turn 1 and turn 2 typically. So you'll just let your opponent swing. You don't care. That's just card advantage. Unless they're swinging with crit, you don't care if they hit you, because that's just card advantage right there in that situation. So don't need tons and tons of combo power. And then the fact that you'll probably be using different strategies. You'll use stuff that, like Ultra Sign Goku, which prevents your opponent from comboing. So you don't need to worry about having a lot of combo power, because you don't have to worry about comboing when you swing with it. And doing stuff like Android 17 Turn Tides, you don't have to worry about combo power. Of Cell, the 7-drop Cell, you don't have to worry about combo power in that regards. Especially if you're incorporating tactics of doing hand control, where you're teching in cards to help you reduce your opponent's hand size, you don't have to worry about combo power as much if you're just ripping cards out their hand. Playing battle cards that are strong, that's one of my obvious methods for dealing with the whole combo thing, trying to get away from comboing by playing things that are stronger for cheaper costs, obviously, so you can play them sooner than later. So being able to drop a 30K on turn 2, you know, it's pretty good. Being able to do it turn 1 is really nice, right? That's what the benefits of Dark Broly was. The fact that they could drop 30K is relatively easy. So then, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, just focusing on effects that help you pseudo combo, but you're not really losing any hand advantage in the process, where you're able to combo defensively, or at least power up your leader defensively, or battle cards defensively, right? Or be able to power them up offensively, but without giving up anything. That's why I call it the endless combo concept. You know, I wanted to get away from the idea of like, oh, I have to discard cards. It's because to me, I'm all about options. So it's like, yes, it's okay to use super combos, right? Right? It's okay to combo, right? I'm not saying the ability to combo shouldn't exist in the game. Obviously not, right? You know, we're used to it. It exists. What I'm saying is try to, you know, build your deck in a way that you don't have to combo defensively and offensively as much. That way you can maintain your hand size, right? So you know, it's the idea of like, just because you have a lot of money doesn't mean you should spend it all, right? Oh, I have a lot of money. I could spend, you know, 90% of it. Like, yeah, you don't have to. You could just spend 30% and be just fine. You don't have to spend. Just because you have more doesn't mean you should spend it, right? Just because you can't combo doesn't mean you should, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So it's like finding ways to reduce, you know, you comboing is, you know, it's an option. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just saying it's an option. And I like options. I like the ability to be able to do stuff or not. The choice is mine, right? So that's the kind of, so that's why I like when it comes to like negates. I was like, damn, these extra cards don't have combo power. And sometimes you need combo power, right? Sometimes it's like, you know, you're tapped out and the extra card, you know, the negate is useless because you have no energy to use it. But if you could just combo 5K, right? As an example, you would be able to survive the attack. You could prevent yourself from losing. So that's why when they made battle card negates, you know, battle cards that for 1 energy you can negate an attack and play the battle card, or you use it in your hand as combo power because it has 0 cost 5K, like Videl and Roshi, you know, those types of cards. And it's like, I was like, once those came into the game, I'm like, finally, perfect. These will replace the negates. These will replace my weak cohesions, right? And I can start using these instead. But ironically, I ended up going back to using extra cards. I mean, you know, extra cards. You know, the extra card negates, because they created spark and negates, right? So they gave us dimension magic and whatnot. So it's like, oh, okay. So now, you know, I can, you know, if I meet the conditions, I could play them for free. I can negate for free, which is better than just trying to have 5K combo power, right? And hoping that I could potentially out-combo my opponent's attack. Because I would rather negate an attack than to try to out-combo it. So that's why when sparking negates became a thing, you know, I went back to using extra cards. But I did stop using the, you know, negates and stuff like that, and started, you know, extra card negates, and started using battle card negates. I still, you know, obviously use battle card negates, especially if they're floodgate negates. Battle card negates like Topo, right? You know, stuff like that. You know, Videl, but Topo obviously is floodgate. Oceanus is a floodgate negate battle card. So, you know, Frieza, Riposte, you know, that kind of stuff. So that's why we use them, right? And then, but then of course they gave us some other, you know, we got Violent Rays, right? We used to have Flying Nimbus, you know, obviously we always had Flying Nimbus, but then we started getting stuff like Violent Rays and Dormant Potential Unleash, you know, so those were good. It's like, oh, okay, you know, so so it was nice. So I keep flip-flopping back and forth. And that's what you're supposed to do as a player, you know, is you're trying to always evolve. You're always trying to do things differently. You definitely want to do things differently than what everybody else is doing, because that gives you an advantage. That gives you an edge. This is why we always talk about spice, and we're always trying to, you know, most competitive players try to prevent, you know, people knowing what decks they're playing, because they want that element of surprise. And as a competitive player, that's the way it should be, you know. always got to keep your best tactics, your best tricks, your best skills, skillful strategies, right? Best techniques to yourself. It's the same thing as like if you're a martial artist, right? If you're a fighter, you're not gonna let everybody know how you fight, your special moves and all that stuff. Why? So they can practice countering your special moves, countering your techniques? Nah, because then you're automatically failing. You're automatically losing before the battle even starts, because you're letting everybody know what you're going to do before you even do it, right? So the idea is to try to be unpredictable, right? And I definitely am very unpredictable in many ways, and I get some hate for that, being different, unpredictable as a word, right? Doing things differently. But ironically, at the same time, there's people that like my uniqueness, my unpredictability, and I've seen it many times when I play, how some people react, and how they behave based off of how I play, because they're not used to it. Some people who play me for the first time are not used to the way I play. Even if they play me a couple times, they're still not used to the way I play, because the way I play does kind of vary a little bit. I do try to be, I have a plan, right? I have a basic line of plays that I try to do, turn 1, turn 2, and all that stuff. So I do have a basic game plan, but I do mix it up here and there, and I do experiment and try different things while I'm playing. So that's something I tend to do when I'm playing, is that I'm trying different things sometimes. I experiment. Sometimes I combo when I don't really need to, just to see what happens. Just to see if my opponent, will respond. Like I'll combo and see if they'll combo in response, or they'll take the hit. Especially because if the situation looks like they should take the hit, because like there's no reason not to take the hit, like take the damage, because it would benefit them if they take the damage, and I combo, and then they out combo me. It's like, they actually should have just took the hit. They would have benefited from this. I was losing hand advantage by comboing, and they were going to gain a hand advantage, and they could have actually, used it on the clapback, especially if I'm tapped out. But instead, they actually comboed out. So their hand size is smaller than it was before. So the possibility of them clapping me back is going to be mitigated. It's going to be less. So I have less to worry about right now while I'm tapped out. That's another thing. You always don't want to be tapped out. You always want to avoid tapping out, because that's a signal to your opponent, hey, come at me with everything you got. So you want to avoid that. But you can take advantage of that, though. Because if you have like baby hat jack in your hand, this and that, deliberately tap out just because you want them to be like, oh yes, time for me to go for game. And then you're like, haha, baby hat jack, gotcha. You thought you had me, but I had you. Mind games, right? So it's just up to you. But typically, I always say that, you're always waiting for the moment when your opponent's tapped out, for you to swing and, try to win the game and stuff like that. But, depending on who your opponent is, right? They could be setting you up, right? They could be tapping out on purpose just to give you that false sense of security, right? That false sense of opportunity, and, take advantage of that. It's part of the game, right? Pretend you're weak when you're actually strong. Pretend you're strong when you're actually weak, right? So that type of tactics. I definitely incorporate a lot of my, because I train in martial arts. Part of why my nickname is Kung Fu. Train in martial arts, ex-military, among other things that I've done in my life. So being tactical, being creative, element of surprise, all these things. The arts of war and all that stuff. I incorporate all these things into how I play, which is why I keep saying, I have a play style, not just like I'm an aggro player, or I'm a control player, or I'm mid-range player, or I'm this, or I'm that. I vary in my tactics, because depending on how the environment, right? If everybody is playing hand control, then I'm going to play in I'm more likely going to play very aggro, where the idea is I'm going to try to use my hand and play a lot of cheap cards and use my hand up as quickly as possible to mitigate, the effects of hand control. Can't hand control me if I got no hands, right? Think about it. Cell meme. Think about it. Can't hand control me if I don't have a hand, right? So, being able to play your hands real quick. Or if you're in a scenario where you're in a board wipe format, right, where everybody's just trying to wipe the board, and they're playing a whole bunch of cards that every time they, battle cards and unisons, everything they play just constantly clears the board. You might want to play the game a little bit differently. You might want to rely on your leader in unison more, because it'd be hard for you to put battle cards in play and keep them in play, especially if you need them to stay in play for like continuous effects and stuff like that. Like Boma benefits from the battle card staying in play so they can block. If you're constantly board wiping your opponent's battle cards, that is playing the Boma leader, then you're just ruining their whole strategy, right? You're just ruining what makes their deck function, is the ability to turn battle cards into blockers. So if you're just constantly getting rid of their blockers, you're putting them in a bad situation, which is good for you, because as a player you're supposed to put your opponent in a bad situation so that way you can have the advantage, so you can win. It's all about advantage. It's definitely not about being fair. It's not about being balanced and all that nonsense. It's about being superior. It's about having the advantage, right? Part of what we like about Goku and certain characters and stuff like that is their power, it's their superiority. Is when Goku's losing, it's like we're like, get stronger, Goku, come on. And then he's like, suddenly he has a new transformation. We're like, yeah, you're gonna beat him because you're stronger now. Yeah, superiority, stronger, better, not equal, not the same, not balanced, none of that bullshit. We want superiority, we want better. That's why we love the idea of turning into a Super Saiyan, right? Because it's better than what we are now, right? We all would love the ability to turn into a Super Saiyan, right? Because it would be a better version than what we currently are. So it's the same thing with the card game. You want to have you want to play stuff that's better than what everybody else is playing. Not just perceived as better, but actually being better. Try and experiment with different cards and try to get different outcomes and do things that no one else is doing. So that way they are, you always have the element of surprise, right? You always have the advantage because you're literally playing cards that no one else is playing. You're playing negates no one else is playing. You're playing blockers that no one else is playing. You're playing unisons that no one else is playing. We know some of the typical, negates, right? We know the typical, battle cards, the typical super combos, typical leaders that people like to play. But there's a lot of other leaders and unisons and super combos and negates and battle cards, and the list goes on, right? That are great, are awesome if you just give them a chance, give them a try. But too many people, in that deck, too many people, follow trends. Too many people are stuck in their ways. They only believe in playing in a certain type of way, so they're not going to try anything new. They're not open-minded to new things. All right, fine. Can't change them, right? Can't convince them otherwise. That's up to them to decide if they want to be different and change. But it's part of the fun for me when it comes to card games is the ability, is uniqueness, is different. It's the idea of doing things differently. It's part of why I'm so popular with, I'm known for being a deck builder, because that's what I'm doing. I'm always building decks, I'm not, I'm always, I got a couple decks that I play and I'm always rebuilding them. I'm always changing them, always trying to do different things, because I've said it many times before that this game at the basic level, at the most basic core, at its core, is simple. First 4 damage is the easiest, next 2 requires a little effort, and the last 2 is the hardest, right? That's it. The game is that simple, It's like chess, right? You have all your chess pieces. That's the most basic aspect of the game, is the board and the chess pieces. The decisions you make is what starts making it diverse and makes it all different and stuff, right? So the game is very simple at the most basic level. So I could play anything as long as I keep that in mind, that the game is, has basic rules, has a basic outcome, right? The first 4 damage being the easiest, right? I say that many times. So I don't have to try to figure out like, how much damage could I do with this deck? Turn 1, turn 2, blah, blah, blah. Because it should be obvious. It should be the first couple turns, you should be able to deal 4 damage because the first 4 damage is the easiest. So no matter what deck you're playing, it shouldn't be that hard for you to deal the first 4 damage. So you don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about trying to make sure your deck could do 4 damage in the first couple turns, because you inherently should be able to. One, you start off with a leader, so you already have a 10k attacker that you can attack with every turn. So in the first 4 turns of the game, you should be attacking with the leader, and you should be able to deal, hopefully, 1 damage for each attack. Let's say you combo. Let's say you drew all 4 of your super combos turn 1, right? And your opponent goes first, you go second, so you swing, you super combo. Bang. You're more likely going to deal that damage, because that's a 20k to a 10k leader. Your opponent needs 15k to out combo that. So bang, right there, 1 damage. Next turn, do the same thing again. Swing, super combo. Swing, super combo. Just keep doing that. Now me, of course, I champa. That's how I roll. I rather deal 2 damage per attack, so I'm gonna do 20k double strike with the leader. Turn 1, turn 2, right? Bang. In 2 turns, I already dealt 4 damage. That's how I think. That's how I play. So why doesn't other people do that, right? You would think they would. You would think that'd be common knowledge now. The idea of trying to double strike the first couple turns of the game, because of the math, because of the fact that it would be hard. Your opponent is going to lose. Think about it. In the first 2 turns, your opponent could, well, technically the first 3 turns, your opponent, no, it is the first 2 turns. First 2 turns, your opponent could potentially lose their whole entire hand if they do try to out combo your 20k double strike leader, right? And like I said, all you're doing is using leader and champa. That's it, leader and champa. Or a super combo, leader and super combo. That's all you're doing. Or even a battle card that requires 1 energy to get to 10k power. That's it. Swing with the leader, tap 1 energy, combo 10k, bang, 20k to your opponent's leader, right? Technically, turn 1 you don't need to combo because your opponent is more likely going to take that hit. Next turn 2 you might have to combo because they might consider like, you know what, I'll do 5k, this turn. Because remember, most leaders do draw on the front side, so they mathematically they'll be like, oh, you know what, I can combo now. Turn 1, I couldn't combo. I want to keep hand advantage, so they'll take the hit. But then once they get to turn 2, they're like, okay, now I can combo because I drew a card for the leader. I played a unison, so now the unison probably has a +1 draw effects. So, their hands are a little thicker, so they could sacrifice, a 5k combo power. Which is why you're going to have to combo on, turn 2. These are the kind of things you need to think about, and you focus on. So, I mean, trust me, you could tell I've been playing this game for a very long time, or at least I've been thinking about this game a lot, because I definitely have a lot to say about, the game decision making. Turn 1, turn 2. That's the thing. For me, the games are based off the turns, right? So I'm always thinking about, the state of the game, turn 1, state of the game, turn 2, turn 3, turn 4, and so forth and so forth. For some people, that's not the case. For some people, it's, they're either focused on end game, like they're trying to play something. It's like, oh man, I'm just trying to get to 7 energy so I can play Android 17 turn tides, and that's it. I'm not trying to do anything extra. I'm just trying to focus on that. I'm trying to get to the point where I could play that card and win. And that's fine. That's a strategy, right? That's a plan. But you need to make sure that everything you do up to that point can guarantee that matters, that will win. You don't want to be at turn 7, right? Drop Android 17 turn tides and your opponent still has 4 life. Unless you have a unison that can attack twice, right? When you do that, trying to take your opponent down from 4 to 0, it's going to be kind of tough. Even if you did just drop Android 17 turn tides, bringing them down 4 to 0 is going to be tough. You rather them being at 2 or 1 life, so it'd be easier. You rather them be at 2 or 1 life, right? And like I said before, the first 4 damage is the easiest. The next 2 require a little bit of effort, so you should be able to easily do 6 damage in the first couple of turns. Way before you even play Enter 17 in turn size, you already should have brought your opponent down to 2 or 1 life. So it's just a matter of just finishing them off. So it's more of a focus on finishing them off, less of, damage output, because it's more of just finishing the game. It's like you already did everything you needed to do to get them to the point where, 1 attack should be enough. So then you gotta plan out that attack. You gotta think it through. Remember, your victory is determined before you even play the game. It's when you build your deck, which is why, I do hate that a lot of people make a habit of net decking, because sometimes they don't realize, yes, the deck might look cool and it might have some really good effects and this and that. It might have some really nice, shiny, expensive cards. Might seem really good, but you have to understand that a lot of times it's the player that makes the deck, shine, makes the deck win. The deck doesn't win by itself unless it has a automatic win con. Typically, the way most decks win is because of the player waiting for the right moment to go for game, playing, making decisions to force their opponent, to combo a lot, so that way their hand size are small, and then take advantage of the smaller hand size, deliberately activating a whole bunch of draw effects so their hand size is bigger than their opponent, and then go for game because they know they have the card advantage, and they should be able to combo more than their opponent. Be reserved. Like, there's so many things that go into it, but that's if you make it that complicated. I like to simplify things, so I would, that's why I look for cards, battle cards, unisons, even leaders, even extra cards, right? Because catastrophic blow is a win con, right? You can use it to finish off a game. So I look for for ways that I can finish off the game within those card types, right? Within those card types. So I'm always looking for something that just makes dealing the last 2 damage easier. So I know it's a lot more players are starting to do that. A lot more players are trying to find ways to just do the last 2 damages, which is awesome to see, because that's definitely going the right direction, because like I've said many times before, it's not that hard to do 4 to 6 damage. So you should really be focusing on the last 2 damage, because the last 2 damage is what determines if you win or lose. Now, I am impressed by people who can take somebody from 6 to 0, or 8 to 0. That is impressive. So those who can do that, with their decks and stuff, that is impressive. So definitely like seeing that. But for everything else, there's my way. For everybody else, it's my way, right? First 4 damage, the easiest. Next 2 requires a little effort, and the last 2 is the hardest. So figure it out, right? Figure out how you want to finish the game, and of course, ultimately have fun. But this is why you shouldn't be with the mindset of like, there's only a couple of decks that's good in the format, or some type of nonsense like that. All right, there's only a couple good leaders. There's only a couple good blue leaders. Couple good green ain't a good color. Blah blah blah. Like all these extra, To me, it's nonsense. It's like, no. If you're a good player, let me rephrase that. If you're a great player, then anything is possible. Right? If you're a great player. If you're a good player, then yeah, you're good. Like, you're good at the most, basic level. You're decent in some aspects, but not so great in others, right? But a great player can use anything, can use any deck, any strategy, and can do a lot. Ironically, in this game, we have a term, the whole DBS God concept. So, there's a lot of people that see themselves as, a god of the game. And there's some people who see themselves as legends, as pros, whatever title or term they want to use to refer to themselves. Obviously competitive is a common term, competitive players. But to me, competitive and casual ain't that different. It's just, ironically, I do expect competitive players to be more different. I expect them to be more streamlined. You know, I expect that by turn 3, their opponent's already at 1 life, or both players are at 1 life because the battle was that fast and intense that both players on turn 3 are at 1 life, and it just boils down to just one attack, and whoever can succeed in pulling off that final attack wins. But that's not what I normally see in a lot of these competitive plays. You know, in these tournaments, when I see the live streams, you know, it's like basic stuff like swing with the leader. Oh, you take the damage. Cool. Play this unit and swing with the unit. Oh, you negate it. Okay. I end my turn. It's like, that's it. That's it. Man, that's such a, you know, base turn. But okay, not throwing shades at competitive players or anything like that. Just saying that, you know, I just notice it, and sometimes, you know, I see the you know, the live streams and stuff like that, and, you know, sometimes it's not that exciting for me because, you know, it's like, okay, this seems, you know, average at best. Hey, if this is how y'all like to play, that's how y'all like to play. You know, to each their own. I guess I just like to see more action, right? More badassery, more surprises. I guess that's just me. I don't expect the, you know, basic thing like turn 1, charge energy, end turn. You know, like I expect a little bit more excitement on turn 1 and turn 2, I guess. But anyway, that'll be the end of the podcast.